This week was design energy. This is how we create better design energy. All right, now I'm going to switch into my drawing mode. Let me slide over here to my side desk. Hello. I want you all to grab a piece of paper. Piece of paper is super important. If you have a sketchbook, that's important too. So get your sketchbook, get it going. And what we're going to do first is, I got my sketchbooks and stuff here. What we're going to do first is we're going to start with a box. Make sure when you draw this box that you leave at least an inch margin or an inch border. So we're going to draw a box. 1 line, 2 line, 3 line. All right. So you should have a box. Gotta love this box. And what we're going to be doing is thinking about this box in a very, very exciting way. This box is going to be the foundation of every single day, every single week, every single month. If you can get into a better flow state to accomplish those goals that you wrote earlier, do you think that you would be happier? Do you think you'd be feeling more higher sense excitement to take on the days if you could get into more flow states, if you could be more aware of the things you're trying to tackle and the things you're trying to take on? Absolutely, you would be like tuned in and do this. So what we're going to do is build some foundational experience and knowledge around how to get into a better flow state, and we're going to draw it out together. So the first thing that we really need, and I have different markers and things here on the right side. You don't need all that stuff. You can just have a marker and we can draw this out in pencil paper. So the first thing that I want you to be able to tap into, and I'll choose my medium size here, is we're going to start with a keyword on this left side and then we'll work our way around. And the first one is intentionality. Why is intentionality so important to start out? Well, because every time, and even when you join this session and started coming into this workshop, there's some intention that brought you to this moment today that you're like, I'm going to go join this How to Use Growth Day session with Drew. I'm going to go see what they're talking about. I'm going to go see how I can get the most out of the app. You're doing that just by being here. So you were intentional coming in. But there's so much intentionality for you to give across all the other things that you're working on. We have, Matt was talking about, he's in tech and also a certified high performance coach. You got some members that were in finances and HR, and across the board, we got a lot of different types of people inside of Growth Day, which is great. All of you have a high level of intention, but we have to be able to tap into that intentionality every single day. If you're feeling a lack of motivation or a lack of awareness, you might be missing some intentionality. So we got to do that. The next kind of catapult that we need to help build this framework is we need ambition. We got to be able to connect to our ambition every single day. What does that look like? Well, if you were 100 times or even 1,000 times better at something or anything that you wanted to be better at, what would that feel like if you could do that? With AI coming to fruition now, at least for my industry, everything that I've wanted to create from a product and design perspective is now instantly possible. And it's like this awakening that's happened. But obviously there's so many things that go into building a product or service or a new business. But the thing that I got so excited about with AI is I can at least visualize this better now with, all the tool sets and things that I have. So my ambition dramatically increased from just working at Growth Day and being a part of Growth Day, because there are a bunch of ambitious people here, but I know how important it is to keep leveling up my ambition and to match my ambition with the systems and framework, learning how to see those things through. So I have intentionality and ambition. Now that I have intentionality and ambition that I'm tapping into, now I need to actually connect to something that's incredible when it comes to knowing where you're going to actually work on your priorities. It's like dedication. Like, what's that dedication look like for you to your job, to your family, to your company, to your team, to your spouse, to your partners, your teammates? Like, what's the dedication look like? I learned this very early on in my life. My dad was in the military and very dedicated to his work. He was very dedicated to excellence. He was a chief master sergeant in the Air Force. The level of dedication he had for his work was a matter of people living and dying, because the planes needed to be able to operate and the jets needed to be able to operate in a highly efficient way, because you're sending a person or a whole crew or a whole team, and things got to work. Things have to be functional. Things have to be checked and checked and checked again. The dedication that he had, I learned that early on. That transpired and merged into my athletics, sport, baseball, football, wrestling, learning the fundamentals and the dedication. Think about the dedication you have and how you can reconnect with that every day. So we're going to connect with intention, ambition, and dedication. What's that dedication look like for you? As we keep moving through, if you're going to have dedication, you got to finish the loop with determination. So determination is this ability that you're determined that you're going to do this thing. You're determined that you're going to put in the effort. You're determined that there is no doubt that you're going to put in 110% for the thing that you're going to do today, and you're going to work towards that. I love that. It fires me up. So this is just the start, the foundation. We got ambition, dedication, determination, intentionality. I'm going to turn this all the way over, and we're going to be looking at it now with ambition at the top. All right, so now I'm going to shift gears. Now that we have this outer frame, these are things we need to be aware of. And now we're going to start thinking about, okay, well, I got to get into a mode where I can understand the things around me. I'll do this so that I can perform and be aware of how to do it. So we're going to create 3 circles, and this might be the hardest thing that you draw all day. Okay, so we're going to do one big circle. And we're going to do another big circle. So go ahead and draw those 3 elements. And I'll zoom in on my screen a little bit more. Okay, drawing. Let's see if I can zoom in a little bit more. Yeah, okay, I can. Let's go. All right, so we're still drawing. We're doing this, people. It's so much fun. All right. So now that we have this drawing, very important. Now what we're going to do is think about our systems inside of this system. So the first thing that we need to think about, and remember, the goal here is to get to a flow state. So I'm going to use a bigger marker right here. And the 3 things that are, they're so correlated to the daily action that you do on a regular basis. I have 5 more minutes, so I need to move a little bit faster. So we have people. People, so important. The people that we work with every day, because most projects are not solo projects. They require people. They require an understanding of those people. They require teammates. A lot of you I saw with the industries that you work in, you got to work with other people. The other thing that they also, and it's coming even more and more, which is tools, like the AI tools that we use. Growth Day is a tool. Like all the tools that you use have to have a connection with people and tools that are both correlated and connect to each other. You're not the only one signing into the tools today, right? There's a lot of other people working these tools. And then there's the systems. The systems is a broad statement because the systems, you could have 100 systems that only you know, that only you do. And those systems could connect to ritual you have, routines that you have. They could be systems in your company, processes and procedure tied to excellence, winning, or what success looks like for your company or your brand. You have a specific system in place. We need to connect these 3 things, but guess what? Between each of these elements, there are 4 key things that you need to be mindful, or actually 3 core things of overlaps. So the first overlap is the process. Every system has a certain process. You can map out your processes pretty clearly by just literally, and I have these things all over my whiteboards here. You can create a process just by mapping out what's the very first touch point of something that you do. And then every Post-it note can be the next step, the next step, the next step. And we call those in product design states. So you can have state design for your processes. What are the processes and what are the connections between the people and the systems? For example, I have probably 30 of these things between people and systems. For example, what's the method for giving feedback to your team member? What's the method for giving feedback to your team? What's the method for giving people feedback in an annual review? What's the process or feedback mechanism for giving people a mid-year review? There are different things that you think about and think, like, there's so much to that, but you got to understand the process between the people and the systems. There's 3 of these things. So we have process. And then the second one that we have, well, guess what? We're working with our people and our systems. Now we need to connect our systems and tools. How do we do that? We have to give it direction. A tool without direction is just distraction. A tool without direction is noise. A tool without direction is literally gonna swipe your time away, kind of like with Instagram, right? You're going through and scrolling. Without direction and intention and all of these other ingredients, you're gonna be using your time in a not so impactful way. So direction is very important for the systems and tools that we use. But also people and tools have a direct correlation. That correlation is feedback. The feedback core mechanism is so important too, because when you're working with people, tools, and systems, there is daily feedback. You're messaging your team, your coworkers, your partners. There's a lot of communication that has to happen. And that feedback is not just, I'm giving you feedback for this week. The feedback is how you keep the momentum, because remember this whole idea that all of these systems are to get us to a flow state. Now, if you can take the time to understand your people, your tools, and your systems, you can work towards understanding how these things work at the highest degrees. We're working on mastery here. Then you can start working towards and getting into a daily flow state. Now, there's a couple keywords, certain level of thinking. One of those levels of thinking is system thinking. Another one of those levels is product thinking. And depending on your discipline and what you do, there's design thinking. And then there's life thinking. Now, you learn life thinking by being in Growth Day. You're learning about life awareness and all these things that you're trying to create. You're learning about design. If you're in product or building a service, you got to understand the A to Z workflows. For products, if you work in a product or at a company that has a product, you have to understand how it works, how it functions, how it makes money, what people need, what problem is it solving. Your systems thinking are the behind the scenes roots of how these things work. Now, a couple jobs before I joined, I was at Facebook, I was at LinkedIn, I was at lynda.com. And one of the companies I worked for was called Envision. At this company, my job was to learn the systems design of all the Fortune 500 companies and how they operated their teams, design teams, product teams, how their companies, products made money, because my job was to help them build better and higher level of design maturity. Design maturity is understanding what are the key ingredients that help you raise the quality of your product. And when you could start learning these systems, especially your systems for what you do, the people that you are going to be working with every day and the tools that you're going to be using to help amplify each of these things, I'm telling you right now, the awareness that you get, you start to be prepared more. You start to be more proactive because you know what it needs to be done. You start to anticipate the things that you should probably be doing that your manager is going to probably ask you for, but you don't need to wait for your manager to ask you those things. You already know what those things are because you understand the systems. And then when you start amplifying this with what we've been working on for the last 4 weeks, last week we were talking about rhythms and schedules and calendars. Once you have a clear schedule of what you can do and you have clear action plans, which we talked about a week prior, and then you have goals, which we talked about 3 weeks ago, and clarity, which we talked about 4 weeks ago, you start to see how these systems build on each other. And that's where this power goes. So I want to come back to you in my drill. This sort of work is the systems work that's going to help you amplify to get into flow state, to be recurring in your momentum. And then we can start applying these things. It starts to get so much fun on when Brendan talks about prolific quality output is determined by the quality of your systems, by the quality of your people relationships, by the quality of your tools and your mastery of those things. So what we're doing here, we're going to work on those things and keep working on those things. So this week was design energy. This is how we create better design energy. Next week, we're shifting into the things that you do now that you understand these systems of how to create better flow. Now you have to understand how to amplify that weekly push to get things done and to move things forward. That's where design clarity comes into play. Very important. High performance habits, Brendan's book, High Performance Habits. And we're going to amplify that with some design. My gratitude is right back at you for being here. And I hope this was fun. I hope it stimulated a different side of you. Next week, we'll be back to do it again. But I hope you have a really fun, cool drawing out of this whole experience. We're doing the work, you guys. This is what it's all about. It's just a beautiful thing. And yeah. I appreciate you so much. We'll see you in the next one. Have a beautiful rest of your week. Let's go. All right. Bye. See ya. All right. See you